Our MC wakes up in the body of an absolute loser of a noble Liam, and upon realizing that he is now in a kid's body, he freaks out. His father scolds him for making such a scene, but he's in a good mood today, so he just tells Liam to sit down and try to not be a disappointment. Liam still can't believe this is all real, so he is sure that he'll wake up sooner or later, but the next morning he wakes up still stuck as Liam Hamilton, so he's just going to have to accept that this is his life now. A little while later, his personal maid comes into his room to help him get dressed, so Liam asks her a few questions and finds out that he's the fifth son of Count, and that party yesterday was to celebrate the birth of his new baby sister. Later that day, Liam is having a chat with his older brother Bruno to try and piece together a bit more about his current life, and he finds out that Bruno is the fourth son of the Hamilton noble family, but they are on the verge of losing their status as an nobility. Basically, there's a rule in place to prevent noble families from becoming entitled Karens, and it states that every noble family must accomplish something great within 3 generations, otherwise they will be stripped of their status as nobility and get demoted to commoner. As it turns out, the Hamilton family is currently on its 3rd generation without any major accomplishments, which is why their father and the oldest son, Albrevet, are anxious to make some kind of contribution to society in order to maintain their status as nobility. Bruno, on the other hand, doesn't really care if he ends up becoming a commoner because he's just a chill guy who doesn't give a frick. Liam is surprised by how nonchalant Bruno is about the whole situation, but to be honest, he doesn't really care either. He literally got here yesterday, so he doesn't know what to do with his life in the first place. Just then, their lesson teacher arrives and announces that he will be beginning their magic lectures shortly, and as soon as Liam hears the word magic, he leaps out of his chair and asks if he really gets to learn how to use magic. Bruno is a bit surprised by Liam's enthusiasm, so he tells him that there are a bunch of grimoires down in the family storeroom, so he can go take a look if he wants. But Bruno warns him not to get his hopes up too high because most people don't have an aptitude for magic. Even so, the magic instructor encourages Liam to learn about it because understanding magic is important even if he can't use it. Liam goes to find his maid and asks her to show him where the grimoires are, so she leads him to the mansion's study, and Liam is amazed by the sheer volume of knowledge present here. He looks through the shelves and finds a book about basic fire magic, so he opens it and decides to try it out. After following the instructions in the book, Liam is able to create a flame on the tip of his finger, which is really impressive for a first attempt. Liam goes to his father's office to ask for permission to use the grimoire library, but his father hates talking to him, so he dismissively tells Liam that he can do whatever he wants. The interaction was a little disheartening, but what's important is that he gave Liam permission to use the grimoire library, so he spends the next couple of days mastering all the basic elemental spells. Eventually, he learns how to cast the spells without needing to look at the grimoire, and Bruno is astonished because he can't use magic at all. He tells Liam he is amazing and soon enough he will be able to make a name for himself. However, Bruno is curious about Liam's motivations and asks him if he is trying so hard to learn magic because he wants to become the next family head. After all, that may make him a target for their elder brother. But Liam has no interest in the family politics of succession, he just thinks magic is cool. Since he has mastered all the novice spells, he decides to start learning ice magic, but while he is leaving the library, he gets called by his father. His father had heard about Liam's talent for magic, and even though he couldn't give a damn about Liam a couple of days ago, he is suddenly really interested in him. He asks for a magic demonstration, so Liam shows him that he can cast magic without needing to open a grimoire, and the Count is elated because he might be able to use Liam to secure their family's position. From now on, he tells Liam that he is allowed to use whatever resources he may need for his magic studies. All of a sudden, a report comes in that a particular man has appeared on the Hamilton land, so the Count orders the soldiers to be mobilized so they can capture him. From the sound of things, this guy must be a really big threat, but that has nothing to do with Liam, so he heads back out into the forest so he can practice his magic. While he is walking out into the woods, he finds a man sitting under a tree, and the man seems a little on edge once he spots Liam. He asks if Liam is a member of the Hamilton family here to capture him, and Liam confirms that he is indeed a member of the Hamilton family, but he has no interest in capturing him. He doesn't even know who the guy is to begin with. The guy is relieved that Liam isn't after him, but then he notices that Liam is carrying a grimoire, so he asks if he is studying magic. Liam confirms it, and since constant practice is the best way to improve, he's going to go practice now. However, before he leaves, the guy asks Liam if he wants to learn a more efficient way of using magic. This gets Liam's attention, so he asks the man what he is talking about, and the man shows him a technique that allows him to use 5 different types of magic at once. Liam is extremely impressed, so the guy asks if he wants to get a quick magic lesson, and Liam says he would love to. The guy is honestly surprised that Liam is being so polite since nobles are known to be quite the arrogant bunch, but Liam is different, mostly because he just reincarnated here recently. Well, anyway, in Liam's first lesson, the man asks him to try drawing 2 diagrams on the ground at the same time. Liam does as he is told, and he turns out to be pretty good at it, so the next step shouldn't be hard for him to master. He now tells Liam to try using 2 different spells at the same time, so Liam attempts it with a flame cutter on his right hand and a fireball on his left. After visualizing the spells, Liam is able to simultaneously cast them on his first try, and the man is truly amazed because it is extremely rare for one to be able to use this technique, let alone on their first attempt. He encourages Liam to keep going and tells him to try using 3 spells at once instead of 2, so Liam gives it a try, and it seems to be working at first, but then his magic suddenly fizzles out, so Liam gets disappointed. However, the man assures him that he performed the technique properly, so the only reason the magic died out was because he doesn't have enough magic power in his body right now to sustain it. Casting multiple spells at once consumes an insane amount of magic power, so Liam just needs to learn to control his magic a little more so he will be able to maintain the simulcast. For now, the man is going to give him a little lesson about the nature of the techniques, so he asks Liam to sit on the ground while he makes an illustration in the dirt. These are prime numbers, and the man explains that the multi-spell casting technique only works with prime numbers. He has no idea why it works that way though. Basically, you can cast 1, 2, and 3 spells at once, but if you try to cast 4 at once, it won't work no matter what you try. Right now, the man has a limit of 13 spells at once, which is unbelievably impressive, but honestly, he has enough magic power that he can easily go up to 16. However, due to the prime number rule, he can't activate any higher simulcasting until his magic power can accommodate 17 spells. Liam is currently 12, so the man is confident that with a solid training routine, Liam will be able to raise his magic power to great heights, and to help him with that, the man offers him this special ring. The ring is basically a massive grimoire and has all sorts of spells stored on it, so Liam can learn them whenever he wants. Liam excitedly puts the ring on, and more than 300 spells begin flowing into his little head. He can't wait to try them out, so he turns towards the woods and activates the wind shot spell, creating a massive gust of wind. He is really happy with how this turned out, so he turns back to the man to thank him, but the man is nowhere to be found. Just then, Liam's maid shows up and warns him that it's dangerous to be out in the woods alone right now. Apparently, there's a suspicious man on the loose, so she tells him to be careful about talking to strangers, but that aside, she came here to give him a grimoire his father wants him to have, so she hands him the book and walks off to return to the mansion. The man then reappears behind Liam, and so Liam asks him where he went to a second ago, but he tells him that he never actually left. He was just using invisibility magic to stay hidden since he can't let anyone find him here. That aside, that's a really interesting grimoire Liam just got, so the man offers to show him a neat trick. He tells Liam to open the grimoire and try summoning a spirit while wearing the ring he gave him, and when he summons a fire spirit, it gets absorbed into the ring. He does the same with all the other elemental spirits, so he can ask for their help later, but by the time he's done, he realizes that the man is gone, and this time he won't be coming back. Before he left, he wrote a message for Liam in the dirt and told him, "Keep training your magic and you will surely become a great mage in the future. And by the way, don't snitch on me. If anyone asks, I was never here." Liam knows very little about that man, but is undeniable that he learned more this afternoon than he ever would have learned on his own, so he will forever respect him as his master. A month after Liam first met his master, he has remained consistent with his training, and now he is far more skilled at wielding his magic. Just then, Bruno comes up to Liam. He is surprised to see that he has made white charcoal on his own. White charcoal burns a lot hotter than regular charcoals, and it creates no smoke. It is really useful. However, it is almost impossible to make without a special furnace and extreme precision. So he is amazed that Liam could create this much with nothing but magic. He also notices that Liam has a bag full of Lecro crystals, crystals that help one restore expended magic power, and asks if Liam made those by himself as well. Liam confirms this, although he did have a bit of trouble perfecting the technique at first since it requires him to use 5 types of magic at once, but he eventually figured it out. Bruno is glad to see that his little brother is so talented, because that means he will probably be fine on his own. As for Bruno, he's getting married soon, so he won't be around anymore. Liam is shocked since this is the first time he's hearing about any marriage, so Bruno explains that he is marrying into a low-ranking noble family. They have less money than the Hamilton family, but you will have more freedom there, so he's happy with the arrangement. Liam doesn't know how to feel about this, but he says he's happy for Bruno. And before Bruno leaves, he wants to give Liam some advice. He tells him that their father wanted a daughter so he could marry her off to the royal family and secure the Hamilton family's position as nobility. However, Liam turned out to be a boy, so he deemed Liam a failure back then and decided to try again for a daughter. However, in the meantime, he grew increasingly anxious about their family's position, so in a desperate attempt to achieve something, He sent out a force of 1,000 men out to go slay a monster that had been sealed away in the forest. However, that plan failed miserably, resulting in the loss of over 90% of the forces. Their father is still trying to gain an achievement for the Hamilton family, but personally, Bruno thinks the family is cooked, so he wants Liam to think about a way to live independently. Liam decides to take Bruno's advice about independence, so he decides to sell his products to make some money of his own. This works out great for him since the white charcoal is a valuable commodity and fetches a decent price, but he needs something a little more profitable if he's going to make enough money to live on his own. Since he's in town already, Liam decides to take a break at a noodle shop and asks for a bowl of ramen. The shop lady prepared one bowl for him, and Liam absolutely loves the taste, and so do a lot of people in town, but all the noodles here have to be made from scratch and don't last very long, so Liam comes up with a great idea to make some extra profit. After a little tinkering, he goes to see his maid and the head chef while they are making dinner and asks them to taste his latest invention. He puts a block of noodles in a bowl and tells them that all they need to do is pour hot water over it, and after they do so, it turns into a delicious bowl of noodles. Liam used his spirits to cook and dehydrate the noodles, so now they'll last for a really long time and can be prepared almost instantly. He is sure his invention will be widely loved, so he rushes to the merchant guild to sell it. But to his disappointment, the merchant tells him he can't distribute Liam's product for him since he is only the 5th son of the Hamilton family. As such, he will need written permission from his father or his eldest brother Albrevet to sell any original goods in this land. Liam doubts he can get permission without having to hand over the profits as well, so he gives up for now and leaves. And once he is home, we find out that Albrevet was the one who told the merchant to deny Liam's request. He can't stand the idea that his little brother is more successful than him, so he's going to do whatever it takes to stop him from succeeding. However, while Liam may not be aware of his brother's grudge against him, he's going to sell his products no matter what it takes, so he decides to take some drastic measures. First, he loads a bunch of his products into an item box he created with the man's ring, and afterwards he begins casting summoning magic. But this time, instead of summoning a spirit, he intends to use it to summon himself. Initially, this looked like it was going to work like teleportation, but instead he summons a perfect clone of himself and sends it off to a neighboring land. If he isn't allowed to sell his items within the Hamilton region, then he's just going to have to sell them somewhere else. Several days later, Liam's clone sends a message to him about all the recent sales it has made, and at this rate, Liam might actually be able to become independent. When Liam isn't selling his goods, he uses his clone to practice his attack spells, and he has finally learned to control the magic missile spell, so he's pretty pleased with himself. All of a sudden, he hears someone approaching, so he dispels his clone and goes out to find out who it is, and to his surprise, he finds out it's Albrevet. Albrevet wastes no time and immediately asks Liam what he wants to become in the future. Liam knows Albrevet only asking because he wants to figure out if Liam is really a threat to his position as the successor of the family. But as mentioned before, Liam has no interest in family politics, so he tells Albrevet that he wants to become independent in the future. Albrevet is relieved since he won't have to compete with Liam for succession rights if he becomes independent. So to help him become independent as quickly as possible, he offers to put in a good word for him so he can join the Hunters Guild. Later that day, Liam heads to the Hunters Guild, and as soon as he enters, all eyes are on him because the Hunters don't think a kid like Liam is qualified to be here. Liam walks up to the front desk to meet the guild master, and the guild master already heard about him from Albrevet, but he's still going to have to give Liam a test to gauge his ability. He tells Liam to fire an offensive spell at him with any incantation he wants, but Liam had never heard of incantation before, so he had no idea what the guild master was talking about. The guild master had been expecting Liam to be slightly stronger than average since Albrevet recommended him, but after Liam fires his spell, the guild master has a near-death experience. Luckily, Liam had the sense to not aim directly at him, so after calming himself down, he grants Liam B-rank status. Now that Liam has an official ranking, he heads out to complete his first mission, but before he leaves, he is approached by a girl. She introduces herself as Asuna Aquage, and she was really impressed by what Liam is capable of, so she asks if he wants to team up with her. Liam was planning to go out solo, but he doesn't mind having a partner with him, so he agrees to team up with Asuna, and she is overjoyed to hear that. She then grabs his hand and leads him away so they can get to work, but Liam is confused since neither of them has actually been given a mission yet. Asuna explains to him that missions are only handed out to parties that are A rank or higher. The rest of the ranks have to go out and slay dangerous monsters for a reward, and as luck would have it, they just so happen to run into a wolf monster. Unfortunately, it turns out to be an entire pack of wolves, so Asuna isn't sure they'll be able to handle this many. Liam, on the other hand, thinks this should be an easy victory with the two of them, so he asks Asuna to finish the wolves off once he has incapacitated them. He then summons a couple of earth spirits and uses them as bait to get the attention of the wolves, and once the wolves bite down, Liam has the gnomes expand to lock their jaws in place. And now that they can no longer move, Asuna is free to cut them down one by one. All in all, there were 42 wolves killed, and when they present the carcasses to the guild master, he is so impressed by their skill that he tells them he has a special mission for them. There's apparently an important person coming to this town in a few days, so he wants Liam and Asuna to take out an armored caterpillar that has been blocking the path. There'll be a disaster if an important person coming were to get hurt while visiting their town, so Liam is taking this very seriously. They find the caterpillar fairly easily, but no matter what they try, they can't seem to kill it. All Asuna strikes and all Liam's magic just bounces off its tucked shell, and if this keeps up, then they'll never be able to take this thing down. While taking a break, Asuna jokes that the only thing that could get through that caterpillar's armor would be a meteor, but there's no way they can get a meteor to strike right here. However, Asuna's comment gave Liam an amazing idea, so he asks her to draw the caterpillar's attention while he gets ready. Asuna has no idea what Liam is planning to do, but she goes along with his plan and distracts the caterpillar, and once it is in position, Liam opens his item box and drops a massive boulder on the worm, killing it in one blow. The method was so effective, in fact, that they managed to kill a second caterpillar. Liam was worried there might be more caterpillars around, so he used his search spell after killing the first one, and sure enough, he found the second lurking nearby, so he killed it too. The guild master is so impressed with Asuna and Liam's performance that he offers to give them 5 times the original reward, and a couple days later, when the important person is set to arrive, Liam, Asuna, and a lot of the townspeople wait outside to see who it is. Liam's father and Albrevit are there as well to greet their guest, but for some reason, the man seems to have taken an interest in Liam. A lot of stuff happens and James ends up calling a meeting with Liam, but Liam has no idea why. The man introduces himself as James Stanley, and he wants to get straight to the point, so he asks Liam how he got Raymond's ring. He thinks Liam must have stolen it, but Liam gets up and yells that he would never do such a thing to his master. He explains the whole encounter he had with that man in the forest, and after hearing the whole story, Stanley finds it really amusing since that sounds exactly like something Raymond would do. He apologizes for accusing Liam of theft since he hadn't realized Raymond took on a student, but since he's here anyway, he wants to see how strong Raymond's student really is. He tells his assistant, Simon, to go stand over in the corner and asks Liam to fire his most powerful spell at Simon. Liam agrees to the test, so he gets into position and prepares to cast his magic missiles, but for an extra boost, he decides to use an incantation. He recently learned that incantation amplifies the magic power used in casting a spell, and for the best effect, the words used in the incantation must have some significance to the caster, so Liam starts reciting the names of his favorite idols. The incantation evidently works because Liam's spell casting is boosted from the usual 7 to 11 at once, and poor Simon over here can't handle it, so the attack breaks through his shield and he gets hit. James is impressed with Liam's capacity for high-volume magic, so he offers him a reward and says he will be granted the status of a knight. Becoming a knight means Liam is now independent, so Albrevit will probably stop watching him from now on since he's no longer a threat to his succession. Anyway, James knows Raymond really well, so he knows that Raymond loves playing practical jokes and asks if anything like that has happened to him recently. And now that he mentions it, when Liam was training to master his item box, he ended up using it to drain out the lake in the forest. But when he did this, he found a letter left there by Raymond. It was addressed to Liam and said that Raymond had wanted to give Liam 100 kilograms of gold as a graduation gift, but it all sank to the bottom of the lake, so instead he decided to turn the gold into gold dust and mix it into the river. Liam thinks it was just a waste of all that gold to dump it all in that river, but from what James knows about Raymond, there's probably more to it than just a practical joke, so it might be worth looking a little deeper into it. Liam takes James' advice and decides to head back to the lake to suck up all the water again, but this time he gets the bright idea to use his item box to separate the gold dust from the water, and when he does this, it activates a hidden door. Inside, Liam finds a note from Raymond, and it says Liam can have this maximum level grimoire as his real graduation gift since he figured out the riddle. Raymond himself was never able to master it, but Liam might get some use out of it. Liam takes a look at the grimoire and finds an interesting spell called Another World in there, and after several hours of trial and error, Liam finally manages to get the spell to work. The Another World spell creates a separate dimension which Liam has full control over, so he can open a gateway anywhere, and no one can enter without his permission. Liam is overjoyed by all the amazing things he could do with this spell, so as soon as he has the chance, he goes out hunting with Asuna again. They are up against a massive frog this time, so Liam first tries using his fire spirits to attack it, but that wasn't enough to kill the frog. In retaliation, the frog begins charging up its ultimate attack, So just before they get hit, Liam pulls Asuna into his pocket dimension. Thanks to this, both of them remain safe from the frog's electrocution, and once the frog finally runs out of energy, they finish it off. A little while later, they return to the guild with the frog's magic stone, and the guild master can hardly believe that they managed to pull it off. That quest was A rank, so he at least expected them to struggle a little, but it looks like it was barely a challenge for Liam. Asuna gets upset at the guild master because he keeps referring to Liam alone even though she fought alongside him. The guild master apologizes, but since Liam kind of did everything, he forgot Asuna was even a member of the team. He can see that Asuna is upset that she's so much weaker than Liam, so he does the responsible thing and suggests that Liam make Asuna his slave. Neither of them thinks it's a good idea, since as a slave, Asuna would be forced to obey any commands Liam gives, but then the guild master mentions the fact that as Liam's familiar, Asuna would automatically grow stronger in proportion to Liam's strength. And as soon as she hears that, she's on board with becoming Liam's slave. Sure, she won't be able to refuse if Liam ends up making pervy requests, but Asuna trusts that he wouldn't do that. And even if he did, she wouldn't mind. They end up creating the contract, and once it's done, Asuna immediately disappears. Everyone is shocked, but then she reappears behind Liam and explains that she just moved really fast. After the contract was established, Asuna heard a voice in her head that told her a unique skill has been acquired. Speedster. Liam thinks this is incredibly interesting, so interesting in fact that he wants to try it out again, but making familiar contracts forces obedience, so it would be hard to find someone who is willing to lose their freedom in exchange for a skill. Fortunately, Asuna knows someone who'd be perfect for it. They go to see Asuna's friend, Jody, and explain the whole situation to her. Jody's got nothing better to do right now, so she agrees to become Liam's familiar, and after the contract is formed, everyone asks her if she unlocked a unique skill as well, but rather than tell them what it is, Jody walks out of the guild and returns with 2 sandwiches. She then gives one of the sandwiches to a guy with a broken hand, and the second he eats it, his arm recovers. Jody explains that her unique skill allows her to heal people with the food she makes. Several days later, Liam is meeting with James again, and he informs Liam that Princess Scarlet is coming to visit him. Liam doesn't understand why the princess would come all the way here for someone like him, but James reminds Liam that he completed an A-rank quest and can cast up to 11 spells at once, plus he can grant people unique skills by becoming their master. The princess is particularly interested in seeing Liam demonstrate the abilities of his slaves, but Liam firmly refuses to do such a thing. James can't believe Liam truly wishes to turn down a request from the queen herself, but even though Jody and Asuna are Liam's familiars, they are still his friends, so he will not turn them into a circus act for someone's amusement. James can see that Liam isn't willing to budge on his refusal, so he tells him he can leave. And once Liam is gone, it is revealed that the maid that had been serving them during the conversation was really the princess. James apologizes to the princess for Liam's refusal, but she actually found it quite interesting that Liam is willing to go against royalty to protect his friends, but she wants to see if he will do the same when talking to her face-to-face. The next day, Liam is summoned to meet Princess Scarlet, and this time she's not in disguise, so Liam will have to be careful about how he responds to her. Liam enters her palace and kneels before her, but Scarlet wants to get down to business, so she calls for a seat to be brought for Liam and mentions that she had heard about him defeating an armored caterpillar and a giant frog. In particular, she's really impressed that he was able to kill a frog without using any high-level magic, because this is the first time anyone has managed to pull that off. However, she is even more interested in Liam's familiars, so she asks him to show her what they can do. Liam can tell that she is trying to use her authority to force him to obey, but he can't accept her request. Scarlet asks him if he really intends to refuse a direct request from a noble, but regardless of what the consequences may be, Liam remains firm on his answer and absolutely refuses to turn his friends into a circus act. He was fully prepared to face Scarlet's wrath for refusing her, but to his surprise, she bursts out in laughter. Liam is the first person she has met who stays true to their morals even in the face of higher authority, and she finds that really amusing, so she wants to reward him. She declares that from this moment on, Liam will be given the title of Baron. Liam freaks out because he doesn't think he did anything to deserve such a title, but Scarlet has taken a liking to him, and she's the princess, so she can do whatever she wants. This way, Liam's family won't lose their status as nobility, but there's something else Scarlet wants to give him. She presents Liam with a familiar contract grimoire, and Liam is way more excited about this than he was about becoming a baron. So he thanks Scarlet profusely and goes on his merry way to practice with his new grimoire. A little while later, Liam is sitting out in the forest while reading the grimoire, and he is able to use the spells inside pretty easily, but until he masters the book, his contracts won't be permanent. While he's still practicing, he notices Bruno walk up to him, and he's really surprised since Bruno got married and left home a while ago. He asks Bruno why he's here, but he doesn't have a real reason. He just wanted to come hang out with his brother, mainly so he could congratulate Liam in person for becoming a Baron, as it's a massive accomplishment. He tells Liam that he basically outranks their father now, but Liam doesn't understand what he means since their father is a count and Liam is only a Baron. Bruno explains that while Barons are lower ranked than other counts, this country separates nobles into different categories. Basically, those who accomplish something and earn their titles on their own, and those who inherited their title. So of course those who earn their titles are seen as more impressive. Liam had no idea that was how it worked, but even if he now outranks his father, he doesn't really care since he just wants to learn magic. As he's walking through the halls, he comes across Albrevet, so he greets him. But Albrevet rudely ignores him, so Liam is left wondering why he is so mad. Meanwhile, Albrevet is absolutely furious that his stupid little brother is somehow overshadowing him. While he's walking, he overhears a couple of maids talking about how much Liam has been accomplishing lately, and he takes great offense to this. So he yells at them and says if they think Liam is so amazing, then maybe they should quit and go work for him instead. The maids realize Albrevet is jealous of Liam, so they quickly apologize for offending him. But Albrevet isn't done yet, so he asks the maids if they think Liam is better than him. The answer is pretty clear since one of them is a magic prodigy who earned himself a title at the age of 12, while the other is an entitled brat who hasn't a single noteworthy thing in his life. However, the maids would like to keep their jobs, so they don't say this and instead tell Albrevet that he is better than Liam. Albrevet then walks away in a huff, and he is determined to prove that he really is better than Liam, so he swears that he will accomplish something as well. The next day, Liam meets with Asuna and Jody in town, and the three of them seem to have become quite popular. Mostly because of how pretty Jody and Asuna are, and consequently, every guy in the crowd is staring daggers at Liam out of jealousy. Moving on, Liam wants the three of them to officially form a party, but he doesn't want to force them to do something they don't want to do, so he asks if they are okay with it. Neither Asuna nor Jody have any reason to object to Liam's idea, so they agree to form a party with him, and later that day, they all head out into the forest on a mission. Jody uses her bow and arrow to strike a wolf in the neck, and while it's weakened, Asuna runs in and finishes it off with her sword. Liam compliments Asuna because she has become a lot faster since she became his familiar. And speaking of improvements, Jody notices that she no longer has old lady vision thanks to the contract making her a kid again. Liam asks if it's always a good thing to have better vision, and as far as Jody is concerned, she would ever say no to having better eyesight, especially since she's an archer. Since that's the case, Liam raises his hand and casts an enhancement spell on Jody's eyes, allowing her to see way farther than she could before. Asuna asks Liam about what he just did, so he explains that he just used a basic enhancement spell to give Jody better vision. Asuna thinks that sounds really cool, so she asks Liam to cast an enhancement spell on her as well, but Liam doesn't think that's such a good idea. He could probably enhance Asuna's combat power, but they would be risky since there's a high chance she would break her bones under the stress of her new strength. But something like boosted vision has no real drawbacks. With her 20/20 vision, Jody can practically snipe anything that is within range of her bow, and it's all thanks to Liam, so she's really grateful. After a long day of hunting, Liam and the others return to the guild, but they are shocked to see the place in absolute chaos. They ask what happened and are told that Albrevet caused a huge mess by breaking the forest seal. Liam immediately realizes that Albrevet must have attempted to defeat the monster seal in the forest out of twisted jealousy, and Liam believes this is partially his fault, so he runs out to the forest to assess the situation. He and the others soon arrive on the scene, and it is much worse than anything they could have imagined. Dozens of soldiers are badly wounded and many more are already dead, so Liam is absolutely horrified. He then spots Albrevet lying on the ground injured and runs over to check on him, but as soon as Albrevet sees him, he gets up in a frenzy and starts yelling that he hasn't failed yet. Just then, the guildmaster takes a stick and whacks Albrevet over the head with it because the situation is already crazy enough as it is, so he doesn't need a crazy, insecure noble running around. Once Albrevet is taken away, the guildmaster approaches Liam and tells him he's glad he came. Asuna asks him about what's going on, so he explains that the dragon fiend Reborn used to be sealed inside these woods thanks to the hard work of Liam's great-grandfather, but Albrevet undid that seal in a failed attempt to kill Reborn, so it's now on the loose. They know how to reseal the beast, and the guildmaster has already gathered all the necessary people to do it, but there's something preventing them from sealing Reborn away again, and that's Raiden's children. The little Radons are actually the ones responsible for all the damage that was done here. And if this much carnage can be caused by the little ones, then imagine what the real Reborn can do. Luckily, since Reborn has been sealed away for so long, it'll take about a week for him to regain his strength and attack. So if they can manage to reseal Reborn before then, they can avert a disaster. Liam plans to help as much as possible, so he races over to Raiden's location and finds him being guarded by the 3 little Radons. The little Radons aren't that big, so Asuma decides to try her luck and runs in for an attack, but as she does so, one of the little Radons shoots a fireball at her, and although she manages to dodge it, the tree behind her gets completely vaporized. Liam then tries using his magic missiles to attack, but the Radons use their fireballs to counter, so Liam doesn't know what to do anymore. His strongest attack spell did not affect them, but he still has one more trick he could try, so he orders Asuna to take Jody and run. The Radons all charge at Liam, but before they could get to him, he opens his Anotherworld gate and lets them fall in, so they are all trapped inside now. The Guildmaster can't believe that Liam was able to defeat all 3 of the little Radons on their own, and neither can Liam since that was a really close call. Now that the little Radons can't interfere anymore, the Guildmaster calls for everyone to begin sealing Raiden away again. While that's going on, Asuna and Jody return to Liam's side and he's relieved that they are alright. They ask him about the spell he used to defeat the little Radons, so Liam explains that it's a spell that creates a separate dimension. He trapped the little Radons in there, but there's no risk of them escaping since at his current level of mastery, whenever he closes the gate, everything inside the dimension disappears. Just then, Liam hears a voice in his head, and in the next second, he is pulled into the mind of Raiden. Raiden refers to Liam as a human with an immense soul, and asks him who he is, but Liam doesn't understand the question since as far as he knows, he's just a regular human. Liam may say that, but Raiden isn't convinced since he can clearly see that Liam's body and soul do not match. Liam realizes that Raiden might be referring to the fact that he reincarnated into the body of Liam Hamilton, so he wonders if Raiden might know the reason behind it, but unfortunately, Raiden has no idea. However, what he does know is that Liam's life is bound to be an interesting one, so he offers to make a deal with him. He wants to accompany Liam through his life, and he promises that he will not bring any harm to Liam or those around him if he agrees. In fact, he offers to help Liam build on top of the skills he already possesses, and Liam doesn't sense any animosity coming from Raiden, so he ends up agreeing to the deal. All of a sudden, Raiden's body dematerializes and is absorbed into Liam's soul, leaving a dragon mark on his hand. Liam can feel the power of Raiden flowing through his body, so he decides to do a little test run and fires his magic missile into the sky. To his surprise, he is now able to control and fire 17 spells at the same time. And it must be thanks to the power boost Raiden granted him, but using Raiden's power seems to have some negative side effects since everyone around Liam begins to suffer headaches from being exposed to such dense mana. Liam notices everyone struggling and realizes his mana is the cause, so he suppresses it and apologizes for acting so thoughtlessly. As his way of showing his sincerity, he offers the Guildmaster 10 kilograms worth of gold dust and tells him to use it to pay for the treatment of those who were badly injured in this fight. Later that night, Liam has a meeting with his father, and his father is really grateful for what Liam did since it prevented a great disaster from being caused by Albrecht's short-sightedness. He also heard that James is still in town, so word of Liam's great accomplishment should reach the royal capital soon enough. That night, Liam goes to bed, but by the time he wakes up the next morning, he realizes that 2 new spells just spawned in his head. He rushes outside so he can test out the spells. With several hours of practice, he is finally able to use one of them and summons a little Raiden. With a little more practice, Liam will be able to make the little Raiden useful for combat, but as of now, it's pretty much just a cute pet. While Liam is playing with the little Raiden, Princess Scarlet happens to walk up behind him, and she recognizes the magic Liam just used as holy magic. She already knew Liam was impressive, but to think he would be capable of using holy magic at such a young age. Anyway, that's not why Scarlet is here today. She is here to give Liam his reward for defeating the Dragon Fiend. She personally wanted to grant him a higher title of nobility, but the other nobles were really opposed to the idea of a landless child being promoted so frequently, so instead, she decides to give him the Order of the Phoenix, 3rd class. While she's here, she also wants to hear about how Liam managed to defeat the dragon, since depending on the details, she may have to declare him as their country's hero. However, the princess is completely horrified upon learning that Liam absorbed the Dragon Fiend. She thinks this means she was totally wrong about him, but then again, she did just see him use holy magic, so maybe not. In any case, she tells Liam to keep that detail secret no matter what, and the next day, Liam receives a chest filled with 3,000 gold coins as hush money. He doesn't understand why the princess wants him to stay quiet so badly, but he's just going to have to go along with it. However, even though he already got his hush money from the princess, James grew suspicious and called for a meeting to ask Liam what happened. Liam tries to deny anything special happened, but for the princess to pay him so much hush money, it must have been a massive secret. So he interrogates Liam a little and eventually he ends up cracking and reveals that he can use holy magic. He demonstrates one of the spells that he can use and informs James that this spell allows him to get rid of all negative status effects, including petrification and poison. He believes this is incredible, but its power is to be expected since holy magic is considered an act of God. He asks Liam if he knows anything about the War of the Three Dragons, and Liam doesn't, so he begins explaining the story to him. Long ago, there was a battle between three great dragons that lasted until only one stood victorious. It is said that the dragon's victory was largely due to its use of holy magic, and after that, the dragon supposedly joined a human, and its magic was used to found this kingdom. When James says join, the first thing that pops into Liam's head is that the dragon and the human got married and had children, but that's not the case. James points out that Liam is a prime example of what it looks like to join a dragon, and now that he thinks about it, Raiden did enter his body, so the two of them are technically joined. James tells Liam that he is basically recreating the legend of this nation's founding, but as amazing as that is, there are more pressing matters to discuss. The Hamilton family's noble status came from the achievement of their grandfathers sealing away a dragon fiend. But it turns out that Raiden was not a dragon fiend in the first place, but rather the nation's founding dragon, so Liam's family wrongfully sealed this nation's founder. If this information gets out, the Hamilton family's status as nobility would almost certainly be dissolved, and Liam doesn't want that since he knows how desperate his father and Albrevet are to maintain their status. But there's something that James is even more concerned about since there's a chance that Raiden is angry about being sealed away, so he may be plotting his revenge against their nation. However, Liam has a little chat with Raiden in his head, and Raiden says he has no intention of retaliating against the humans, so all he is interested in is watching Liam develop. James says this is terrific news, and it wouldn't be a stretch to say that Liam is the savior of the kingdom for being able to grab the attention of Raiden. A little while later, Liam arrives at the guild, but before he could enter, the girls drag him away. Liam has no idea what's going on, so when they get a good distance away from the guild, he asks them what's going on. They explain that the guild was filled to the brim with people who were trying to join his party after hearing that Liam defeated a dragon fiend, and they all kept begging Asuna and Jody to convince him. The two of them wrote a list of all prospective applicants, and honestly, none of these adventurers are particularly impressive, but Liam is the party leader, so the decision is up to him. After that, Liam decides to head back to his house to read through the list, but as soon as he walks through the door, one of the maids says she has something to show him. These are all requests from the girls of various noble families because they want to become Liam's wife. Liam had kind of expected this to happen since he's popular now, but this many is more than he's prepared to handle. Even his brother is bringing him a letter at this point. But thankfully, he's not the one trying to marry Liam. It's one of the relatives of the family he married into. Since he's here, Bruno asks Liam what he did because it's not normal to receive this many marriage proposals at once, even if he did defeat the dragon. The only people Liam has told about the holy magic thing are the princess and James, but because the princess paid him so much hush money, the other nobles figured out that there must be something major going on with him. It's a bit of a pain, but Liam can't deny that he is really enjoying all the popularity he has now. Later that day, Liam heads out into the forest with Jody and Asuna because he has something he would like to show them. He opens his pocket dimension, and upon entering, Asuna and Jody find a huge house in the middle of the room. Liam explains that he had a carpenter build it, and then he moved it in here using his item box. And that's all impressive. But Asuna is concerned that the house will just disappear like what happened with the Raiden Juniors back then. Liam explains that he has fully mastered this spell and nothing inside will disappear anymore, which is why he put all this stuff in here. He gives Asuna and Jody a tour through the house, and they are both enjoying themselves, but Jody brings up the fact that this place is constantly bright, so it would be hard to go to sleep there. Liam comes up with an idea and decides to summon a shade spirit to darken the area. And while it does work, it works a little too well because the entire place is pitch black now. Liam tries to brighten it up a bit by having a fire spirit light the fireplace, but this still looks too much like a horror movie setting, so he asks the shade if it can control the level of darkness it creates. Unfortunately, the shade is low level, so it doesn't have control over its darkness, and although a mid-level shade would be able to do it, Liam hasn't learned the spell to summon one yet. Asuna thinks it's a real shame that the low-level shade can't just become a mid-level one. That's when Liam remembers that his familiar contracts level people up, so he forms a contract with the shade, and it indeed levels up. The shade thanks Liam for forming a contract with it, and since it is now mid-level, it limits the level of darkness in the area to make it look like nighttime. He then tells Liam that he can call on him anytime, but Liam isn't sure he'll be able to summon the shade anymore since he doesn't know how to use mid-level spirit magic. However, the shade points out that Liam is wearing a magic storage ring, so he should be able to use it to absorb and summon him whenever he wants. Liam hadn't thought of that, So he tried it, and the ring really does absorb the mid-level shade. He then does the same thing with all of his other spirits and levels them up before storing them in his ring, so Liam now basically has a mid-level summoning grimoire of his own. The next day, Liam heads out into the forest at Raiden's request, and once he gets to the designated spot, Raiden asks him to summon one of the Raiden Juniors. Liam summons it, and the Raiden Juniors create an opening in a barrier that reveals dozens of pixies that have been hidden in the forest. As soon as the pixies realize that Liam is a human, they all start flying away so they don't get hurt. Liam tries to calm them down by explaining that he isn't their enemy. He tells them that Raiden is the one who told him to come here, and after hearing Raiden's name, the fairies seem to trust him a little more. Pixie wings are valuable ingredient items and potions, so humans almost hunted them into extinction at one point. That's why Raiden took it upon himself to protect them by creating a barrier in the forest. However, since he's now living inside Liam, he can't maintain the barrier anymore, so he wants Liam to protect the pixies in his place. To do this, Liam first wants to form familiar contracts with all the pixies, so he asks them if they are okay with that. The pixies trust Liam since he is working on behalf of Raiden, and since he's going to be forming contracts with them, Raiden asks Liam to give them names as well since naming things gives additional power to human magic. Liam forms a contract and decides to name the first pixie, Reina. However, to his surprise, once the contract is completed, Reina is transformed from a pixie to an elf. Raiden thinks it's interesting that the pixies evolved into elves, but he isn't that surprised by it. However, Liam is totally confused and has no idea how this could have possibly happened. Raiden explains that by forming a magic contract and naming the pixie at the same time, the magic power from both actions resonated and created a stronger response than normal, which is why the pixie evolved so much. From now on, Raiden says it would be best if Liam named every familiar that he forms contracts with. After seeing the effects of the contract, all the other pixies are eager to form a contract and ask Liam to name them as well. Once all the pixies have been turned into elves, Reina asks him for some orders since they are his familiars. Liam hadn't really thought that far ahead since he just come here at Raiden's request, but since the pixies are all elves now, he suggests that they should start building a village for themselves. He also appoints Reina as the leader of the village since she was the first pixie he evolved, and she's the only one whose name he remembers right now. Once that has been settled, the elves get to work planning their village, and Liam is completely exhausted since he used way too much magic power when forming all those contracts. Just then, he senses a lot of magic power coming from deeper in the forest, so he goes to check it out and finds this golden fruit hanging off a tree. He can sense a lot of mana coming off it, so he asks Reina about it, and she tells him that it is a fruit that pixies make. They would collect mana floating through the air and condense it into one place, so it's basically mana honey. Liam asks her if he can eat it, and Reina has no objections, so he cuts the fruit down and takes a bite. And when he does, not only is his magic power restored, but his overall magic capacity is increased as well, so he can now cast 19 spells without a chant. The next day, Liam comes back to the village to check on how things are going, and Reina comes out to greet him, but she has some bad news. Even though he told them to build a village for themselves, they don't actually know how to build houses, so this is the best they could do. Liam figured something like this might happen, so he's prepared to teach them how to build homes for themselves. However, his lesson is interrupted when they hear one of the elves scream for help. Bandits happen to make their way into the forest, and as soon as they spotted an elf, they decided to kidnap and sell her off for money. Liam obviously isn't going to let that happen, so he demands that the bandits release Susie at once, but bandits are bandits, so they don't listen and instead try to attack him. Liam summons a clone and uses it to launch a simultaneous attack on the bandits and knock them out. While he may have saved Susie, he now realizes that this forest is far too dangerous for a group of elves to live, so he intends to move them somewhere else. He wants to put them in his pocket dimension for now, but he's not sure they'll all fit since the space isn't that big. However, when he takes a look inside, he realizes that it's gotten a lot bigger since the last time he saw it. It's probably because of that pixie honey that he ate yesterday, and thus works out great for him, so he tells all the pixies to get inside so he can take them to a safe place. A little while later, Liam has returned to his land and opens his pocket dimension for the elves to come out, and they are shocked to realize that they are in an entirely different area now. Liam tells them that he brought them to his land so they won't have to worry about being attacked anymore, and while the elves are grateful, they are even more amazed that Liam was able to transport all of them here with a single spell. They all bow down to ask Liam to become their king, and if he agrees to rule them, they swear to do whatever he asks. Liam feels the need to protect them, so he agrees to become their ruler, but he asks them not to call him a king because he doesn't want to have to deal with the politics of that. Anyway, since he's their leader, he has to find land for them to live on. 4 days pass, and Liam is still trying to get a place for the elves to live, which is why he has been practicing the new magic Raiden gave him non-stop. And when he finally figures it out, he tells everyone to line up. He then proceeds to teleport them all about 100 kilometers from where they were before to a place called the Sealed Islands. Raiden is the one who sealed this land, but he has permitted them to use it as much as they like. This would have been a 4-day trip if they traveled normally, but with the teleportation magic he learned from Raiden, he can instantly travel to any location he has been to before. He tells the elves that they can live here from now on, but he's still going to need someone to build houses for them. For now, he's leaving the Raiden Jr.'s in charge of protecting the elves until he gets back, so he teleports back home. There he is visited by the princess, and she wanted to ask him if Raiden ever mentioned a place called the Promised Lands. Liam never heard of the Promised Lands, but Raiden did permit him to use a place called the Sealed Lands, so the princess asks Liam if he can take her there. Liam says he's fine with it, but in exchange, he needs something from her as well. He asks her to bring one of the court engineers because there's a project he needs to complete. However, he doesn't intend to take the actual engineer, so he makes a clone of Golek and teleports the clone, as well as the princess with him to the Sealed Lands. Upon arrival, the princess is certain that this must be the Promised Lands, so she recounts the legend that says that humanity's salvation lies in the Promised Lands, and this ring is said to be the key. The ring has been in the royal family for generations, but it begins reacting to Liam, and as he touches it, a huge chunk of the land begins to float at his command, so the princess bows down to him and asks Liam to form a nation here for the sake of humanity. Liam really doesn't want to do it, but the princess pledges her loyalty and all her resources to help make it happen, so he has no choice. This was the end of episode 4. Subscribe to not miss the next part.